Okay, so again, point 4, body urges and impulses must not subvert the authority of the soul. Point 5, this is called the defilement of the physical and the spiritual. The soul with doctrine in its stream of consciousness, and the human spirit must be in full control of the body. So now we've gone into the believer and his spiritual life. The believer who cannot control his body being the temple of the Holy Spirit, having the Shekinah glory inside of it in this dispensation, he must learn to have dominion over his body through the spiritual life. If he fails at doing this, this is known as the defilement of the physical and the spiritual, as per 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1. Again, I translated it this way because these are attributive genitives, the defilement of flesh or body and spirit. These are attributive, they're anarthrous, first of all, genitives, they are attributive genitives, anarthrous, emphasizing the quality rather than the identity of here the type of flesh or the type of body or the type of spirit. It is the physical and the spiritual. Okay. Point 6. As the believer in Jesus Christ advances inside the divine power sphere and is developing the 10 problem-solving devices, he must learn to control the body, subordinating it to the spiritual life. The spiritual life comes first. If you are one of those that has been a complete failure at controlling the urges and impulses of the body, then you're in the right place. The spiritual life will finally give you the power to control the body. And many of us start off this way. The boys nowadays, doing all these drugs, smoking weed, even though you call it a Disneyland drug, it's not a drug. You eat pizza, that's a drug. They try to justify themselves in all these different ways, stupid ways. It is a drug. It does promote lack of discipline. It provokes lack of discipline inside of your thinking. Instead of organizing your thoughts and disciplining your thoughts, there you are, thinking that you can think about 7 thoughts at the same time simultaneously. That is not discipline. First of all, you're not thinking that many thoughts simultaneously. Secondly, it is not discipline. Control yourself. Control your emotions. You're a man. Be a man. Sometimes you need one of those honest ladies that are just straightforward and tells you you're not a man. But of course, you're too high to even realize it. You're too full of yourself to see the truth behind it. All right. So, point 7. But if he refuses to advance in the spiritual life and obey the mandates, the result is that the soul's ability to dictate to the whole of the person, you, is impaired because the body is now dictating to the soul. Was this too long of a sentence? Let's try it again. But if he, the believer, refuses to advance in the spiritual life and obey the mandates, the result is that the soul's ability to dictate to the whole of the person is impaired because the body is now dictating to the soul. So by now you must understand that the body must not dictate to the soul. The body has no mind, has no reasoning ability. The body just knows urges and impulses. Some of them might be right in terms of letting you know that it needs to use the restroom. Some of them might be wrong. The sin nature is taking control and is telling you, I want this, I want that. How about you give me a little bit of this? How about give me a little bit of that? And if you do succumb, just use 1 John 1:9. 1 John 1:9 has the purifying power to remove the repercussions of that sin. Therefore, do not forsake 1 John 1:9 and the learning of Bible doctrine. Point 8. One of the areas where the sin nature has defiled the physical and the spiritual is in the area of love. And this is an easy one. Everyone wants love. Everyone wants to talk about love and romance. Everyone wants a partner, yet no one has the capacity for it, etc. Everyone wants sex. And everyone thinks about perfect sex, and I want the sex this way. Everyone thinks they're an expert, not everyone, but many. And you see all these ladies trying to pretend like they're, some sort of sex experts and do this massage and do this and that. You see them on social media and all that. And Unfortunately, sex is a soul thing. Yes, it involves the body, but it's a soul thing. High quality orgasms have to do with the soul, you idiot. I call myself an idiot too. I was one of those that believed the lie. But before I move on forward and I get ahead of myself, let me go over these points. Point 8, again, one of the areas where the sin nature has defiled the physical and the spiritual is in the area of love. If you want to call it love versus lust. Point 9, the body cannot handle intimacy or relationships until the soul has capacity for love. And I'm going to repeat this again. The body cannot handle intimacy or relationships until the soul has capacity for love. You might say, oh no, but what about me? I've been able to have great sex and great love relationships without having any doctrine. Yes, that's many times. If you were an unbeliever and you were under the laws of the divine establishment, yes, I believe it, but that's limited as well. And that's if you're not lying. Many people lie. I've done this before. I've had a perfect relationship and I did not need doctrine. People always lie. I did this without doctrine. I was able to do this without doctrine. People always lie about their happiness. People always lie about their great romance. Okay, point 10. This is the reason why sex outside of marriage, fornication, all sexual immorality, can cause one to think that he is in love if the sex was good, or not in love if the sex was bad. So again, point 9, the body cannot handle intimacy until the soul has the capacity for love. And point 10, this is the reason why sex outside of marriage, fornication, all sorts of sexual immorality can cause one to think that he is in love if the sex was good. If the sex was bad, well, you say, okay, I'm not in love. Have you ever fornicated with someone whom you were not supposed to, and you thought you were so obsessed and you thought that was love just because the sex was good? Oh, don't pretend like you were some little, perfect Mr. Goody Two-Shoes. It happens. It happens to the men. They reject the woman with whom they were supposed to be the right woman, and they went for that other one who was not worth it, but the sex was good, and now he left the good one for the bad one, so to speak. Point 11. But the spiritual life inside the divine power sphere causes the believer to attain capacity for love and for life. Point 12. The love relationship develops inside the soul. It's inside the soul. Point 13. Love includes personal love for God the Father and impersonal love for all mankind. Point 14. Without this capacity for love, the believer has no capacity for love in all three categories. Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3. Category 1 love is love towards God. Category 2 love is right man, right woman. Category 3 is friendship. Point 15. The attaining of this soul capacity must be followed by the discipline of the body. So as you're learning Bible doctrine and obtaining this love capacity inside the soul, it must be coterminous with disciplining your body. Unless you're one of those that just has no control over the body, but at least you're still learning some Bible doctrine. At least you're being consistent with the learning of Bible doctrine, even though you're sinning. Then God needs to step in and administer some divine punishment, divine discipline, so that you can hurt a little bit and discipline the body, so that those body sins do not hinder your spiritual life. Point 16. Having attained the soul capacity and the discipline over the body, the believer accomplishes the cohesion of the physical and the spiritual. in this area, at least, in the area of love versus lust. So you saw the progression here? Having attained the soul capacity and the believer over the, and the discipline over the body, the believer accomplished the cohesion of the physical and the spiritual in the area of love versus lust. And so this process occurs in all other areas as well. All right, let's begin again. A few other points. Point one. At first, the newborn believer, the baby believer, lacks the self-discipline to have the body under the control of the soul. So we all kind of start off like that, especially if you have a trend towards lasciviousness. If you have a trend towards self-righteousness, you don't have to worry much about that, even though I argue that you do. But you just think you're too much of a goody two-shoes, that you think that you were always so well behaved. But you do have a sin nature, and you do have your own problems, and many times you hide those problems, even from yourself. You think you're better than what you really are, when in reality you're a beast. A beast in a bad sense. Okay, so again, point one. At first, the newborn believer lacks the self-discipline to have the body under the control of the soul. Point two. But as he advances in the spiritual life, the norms and standards begin to be renewed. His priorities are rearranged. He is oriented back to reality with regards to himself and with regards to others. That is, your lust and arrogance quantity is reduced. This is an important point. This is huge. Point two. But as he advances in the spiritual life, I'm repeating, as he advances in the spiritual life, the norms and standards begin to be renewed. That's conscience. His priorities are thus rearranged. He is oriented back to reality with regard to himself and with regards to others. Your lust and arrogance quantity is reduced. A lot of the reasons why you sin is because you swallow up the lie first. That's part of the reason why many people sin. They swallow up the lie in the area of love, in the area of friendship, in the area of themselves, to the point that you believe the lie and then you sin. In this part where I mentioned he is oriented back to reality with regards to himself, is because you and your arrogance were thinking too high above yourself. That was preoccupation with Christ. And in your preoccupation with the self, you thought you were too good for this, you thought you were some sort of something special, some sort of Don Juan, God's gift to all womankind, etc. And as a result, you sinned in accordance to your high thinking, your arrogance, your preoccupation with self. You also probably are divorced from reality in your arrogance with reference to other people. You think you can exploit them, you think they don't deserve this, they don't deserve that, etc. And so one of the best things that can happen is that through doctrine, you become oriented to reality once again, and you see yourself for what you truly are. You are not that great. You're just a human just like any one of us. You have your own sin nature, your own weaknesses. You are not some sort of gift to womankind. And then you start becoming oriented towards other people as well. Well, people are not that great either. You're just like you. In the area of love, all right, she gives you attention. If you're a man, she gives you attention. All right, so what? She gave you attention. She showed you this little part of her body trying to initiate sexual tension. So what? She does that to everyone else. And then ladies as well. If he gives you attention, so what? This man, he likes to give attention to many other women. Don't become so excited. You need to be oriented to reality with reference not only to yourself, but with reference to other people. So what, man? He gives you attention. She gives you attention, rather. And she does that. All right, maybe she's showing me part of her leg and all this. And you feel some sort of something special. You are not special. She does that with many other people. She does that with the other women as well in terms of competition. Trying to demonstrate that she is bad, she's more badass than the other. Trying to annoy the other ones as well. When she's feeling insecure, she shows a part of her body. That's normally what happens. If they're feeling insecure, they go out and resort to the sexual. That's their stronghold. Principle, if all she has is the sexual, she has nothing inside of her soul. So what if she does this? She does it in front of the ladies, she does it in front of the men. Sometimes she does it in front of the ladies in terms of lesbianism. Sometimes it's competition, sometimes it's lesbianism, sometimes it's both. Oh, but cheer up. Cheer up. There's that one woman who's doing the work in terms of executing the spiritual life, who is worthy of you, who's your right woman, she might be your right woman, and she's going to be worthy of you pouring in your love into her. But you're not ready for it. What makes you think you're ready for it? You still need to advance in the spiritual life. You still have these kinks that you need to correct. Well, God needs to correct them so that you could be able to love that woman correctly. You know, sometimes men think that they're already experts in the matters of love. You're not an expert. You have a lot of growth to do spiritually. Just as women, they think they're experts in the areas of love. They think they're perfect lovers just because they have a great ability or a great capacity for empathy. And I would argue that not so much. Cross them off the wrong way. Where's their empathy? You've already gotten in the wrong side, in her wrong side.